Boruto, episode 46, Go, the Crest of Night Strategy. So this is an interesting episode. We're going into, of course, our final, couple of episodes. I would assume the next episode is going to be the last one. I kind of figured it was going to be, this is the strategy, and then we'd go into the revelation and all that stuff, and, Shikadai talking to Ryogi, like, is this what you really want to do? And he's, tricking you and all the extra stuff. They didn't do the revelation like I thought. They might save that for the next episode, or I could have totally been wrong, but I still think, Ryogi's mentor at this point definitely manipulated his father and the guy that killed his father so that he could basically take Ryogi and have this powerful kid. So it'll be interesting to see. It totally makes sense too because of the fact that by the time we get to the halfway point of this episode, we find out that the main reason that they're going for the lab is that they're actually going for oddly enough, it was funny how much it tied into the Boruto movie arc stuff, but for anyone who hasn't seen it, I won't really spoil it. But that is a part of the Boruto movie arc. There's some stuff that relates to there's all this ninja information done through technology rather than actual ninja techniques. So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting to talk about how this scroll basically has every single form of ninjutsu ever cataloged. So whether it's Kekkei Genkai or whatever, it's all in this scroll, and we can sell it for a buttload of money, and then it's for the good of whoever. And I was like, okay, that's a cool idea. They have all these people riled up, they're put under genjutsu, and so they're set off against the company and parading through the streets and protesting, and that was a way for the Byakuya Gang to basically get to the lab, judo chop everybody, because that's pretty much all they do is the ninja thing where they just knock all the scientists out. Then they steal the scroll, but of course Shikadai realized, based on how the map looked with the shogi board, he kind of went backwards in time and was like, oh, I kept losing to Ryogi, where it's oh, you don't see it because you don't really go on the offense. So he realized from that strategy exactly what they were actually going for, so he heads off to the lab. So of course, his team follows him, and naturally Boruto sees him, and Boruto is the character who always leaves, even though he's supposed to do something, so naturally he takes off. Mitsuki goes to Shikamaru to let him know what's going on, and then Sato actually goes and follows the protesters and stuff, and then once she and Denki realize something's going on, she finds out that everybody's under genjutsu. So that's how they kind of solve that issue. And then of course we have our little action sequence, which I actually enjoyed. Chocho and Inojin fighting, I actually thought was cool. I wish the scene was longer, but I was like, this is actually a nice little sequence. It was simple, but I enjoyed it because it's two characters that we don't really get to see fight that often. We really don't get to see many of the characters fight outside of obviously our main three being Boruto, Sadara, and Mitsuki. So I love getting to see that. We got some expansion jutsu. Chocho is actually the one that really kicked it off. She just comes down with the giant fist, and I loved how that looked animation wise. So I was like, well, that's definitely cool. And Inojin is doing his techniques, and they actually they're always beating these people up. It's always funny when I'm watching either Naruto or Boruto. It's just I know that they're fighting. These people are in a gang. They're supposed to be strong in some regard, and it's they couldn't beat these two kids. I mean, sure, she can make her body huge and swat you like a fly, and he has colorful painted lions and stuff. I'm just there's still 5 grown adults here. They should be able to take out these kids, but everybody gets beat up, and then of course it comes down to the last dude, and he does, if I remember right, it was called a Firefox technique. I thought that actually looked really cool. I was like, oh, that's pretty sweet. As a spiral of flames, and he could throw them off a couple at a time, or however many he wanted. So I thought that was cool. And once he was able to knock them down, naturally he's about to kill him, but then he gets stopped, and that's when Shikamaru comes in with the shadow paralysis, takes him down, ties everybody up, and then we actually get to see Naruto come in after basically both sides of the conflict have been resolved, outside of the main two people with Ryogi, his mentor, and then Shikadai. We have Naruto come in and let everybody know this is what's happening. You are all under genjutsu, but I do feel some of you guys are actually upset with how things are playing out. The city, our village is still under development. This boom in technology, it's still changing, and we're still in the middle of growing to this new technology that we have. So I need all your help, to actually keep the village strong and keep us bonded together. And I thought that was a very simple moment, but I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And plus we got to see Naruto, we got to see Shikamaru, we do get to see Choji, we do get to see Kiba. Sai was there as well, but most of the characters we don't really get to see fight, which is kind of what I was really hoping for. But we do get to see a lot of them, so I still enjoyed that, just seeing the older characters. But it was a decent little moment. It was just Naruto, being the Hokage. So it was like, yeah, that's pretty sweet. It had his clones pop up and everything, which I thought was kind of funny. Especially how they were summoned. Like he had shadow clones pop up, but they weren't next to him. They just popped up like, you know, a million feet away, like just right in front of the crowd. So it was like, I guess I've never thought of it before, but technically, if they can pop up right next to him, why can't he summon them and they show up wherever he wants? It's just never occurred to me, but they were just popping up out of nowhere. And I was like, wouldn't he normally have to have that location like tagged to make a clone? But I guess not. Like they pop up right next to him out of literally thin air. So why can't they just pop up, 40 feet away from him out of thin air? It was just something that randomly popped into my head. Like I've never once really considered, oh, they just pop up out of nowhere. Like it was just always in my head, like they always pop up right here because that's just how clones work, but that's not the case, I guess. Super random to mention that, but it was just something that like literally never crossed my mind. If someone made a shadow clone, could they make the shadow clone pop up, 30 feet away, or like as far as they can see, like it's a mile down, and then that's where the clone is. But he has this talk with the villagers and stuff, and everything kind of calms down. And then, of course, it goes to our main focus of pretty much this story arc, which is Shikadai and Ryogi. And I'm excited for where that's headed. We're going to get some fairly decent action with Ryogi having the Kekkei Genkai and them fighting on the train. I hope that leads to some cool action sequences, them kind of being in an enclosed space, what they may or may not do to actually end up kind of messing the train up as it's kind of going forward. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out in general. It's a little hard to tell if the next episode is officially going to be the end. It seems like it would be because it's just, Shikadai and Boruto versus Ryogi and, his master. So it's like, all right, well, I mean, they could stretch it out, but I just don't really see how. Like, I'm hoping that it's kind of just succinct. One episode. I'm sure we're going to get, a B story anyway. There's probably going to be somebody trying to get to the train. Even though Shikamaru says, like, oh, we won't catch up, so they just have to deal with it themselves. I don't think it's going to be 100%. That's all we see in the next episode. I feel like there's going to be more to it. But I could be wrong. There might be some extra flashbacks. The potential reveal, like I said, I still believe that that guy manipulated Ryogi's father to make him weaker or something, and that's why he got busted, because it was just weird to me. Like, why would he run back to his family, and he couldn't seem to beat this guy? They work as a gang, so did this guy only follow Ryogi's father, but he wasn't sensed by anyone else in the gang? A lot of weird questions, so I'm like, I feel like there's a revelation coming in this next episode as Ryogi kind of battles with being the pawn and growing into whatever he's going to become next. But I enjoyed this episode. Like I said, we got to see the older characters, even if we didn't really get to see them do that much. Still cool to see them. We got to see I can never remember their names, but Konohamaru's friend, the woman, the girl that he grew up with, she's a woman now, she's an adult. We got to see her. We didn't get to see his buddy because Denki's team, they're suspended, so we don't actually see him, which is super funny. It's kind of weird. Like, she has a couple of scenes that they've shown. She's even in the ending, if I remember right, but his buddy isn't. Like, they just haven't really shown him, like, at all. But it's like Konohamaru and her, and I really wish I could remember her name, but she's in there quite a bit. And then it's like his buddy that he grew up with, that dude is just like never seen. Like, he's in like a couple of moments, and then like I said, his team technically got suspended, so they don't need to see their sensei around, so he doesn't really show up to anything in this episode. It's just like, that's a little weird. It's like they're almost avoiding that character, which seems funny to me, but that's just how it feels. But got to see some of the adult characters, which was cool. Denki had a little moment with his father where he got some props, and ultimately it was a pretty decent episode. Small action sequence, but I enjoyed it. Got to see some characters fight that don't normally fight, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to get in this next episode. I'm really curious how the action's going to play out there, because Shikadai can't really do much either. Like, his paralysis jutsu, he's not that great at it, and it can't go that far. And with two people, I mean, even though he has Boruto there, you're dealing with a Kekkei Genkai user, plus this guy, I would assume the guy has other skills outside of just the Genjutsu thing, but I'm curious how the action will play out there, how much we're really going to get to see. But all in all, I would say this was a pretty decent episode. I really enjoyed it. Definitely looking forward to the next one. But of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And of course, with us going into what is potentially the last episode, I would love to know your theories. I think I asked this before, but I do want to know your theories on how things might play out with Ryogi. How, will he betray his master? Will we find out that his master did have his dad killed, and he manipulated either his dad or he manipulated, the other person? I would love to know your theories on how that's going to play out in the next episode. And like I said, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this one in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.